Like many American citizens, a group named the American Auto Worker Ownership Committee, representing many full-time and retired UAW auto workers, salary, and vested stakeholders, are skeptical that conventional approaches to saving the U.S. auto industry will address the root causes of its collapse. There is a cancer threatening the very survival of this major industry whose health affects that of many other industries in America. There is a need for radical surgery, not Band-Aids. They think the key to curing and restoring the competitiveness of the U.S. auto industry is to maximize the ownership opportunities and responsibilities of all workers, from the assembly line to top executives in the companies. Their proposal is available on their website, www.employeeownedauto.org. Revolutionizing the U.S. auto industry through a worker ownership union. This proposal has already been sent to top union officials, corporate executives, and government officials. In Washington, they are represented by Congressman John Conyers, former Congressman Walter Fauntleroy, and Norman Kurland of Equity Expansion International. They are gathering support from the Congressional and Auto Task Force committees to ensure its success. The federal government publicly stated that it would consider new ideas, and the Big Three say they are concerned about the fate of their workers. The group is requesting this plan to be included as part of the additional federal auto loan. The AAWOC envisions making this 100% employee stock ownership plan a key element of the restructuring plan of Chrysler and General Motors. There is no significant growth of any collaboration between the three corporations to restore their competitiveness with foreign auto-owned manufacturers. An American and foreign auto manufacturing partnership with U.S. tax dollars offers more uncertainties than hope to American taxpayers, our national economy, and auto workers. Without dramatic concessions from all stakeholders from top to bottom versus bottom to top, much will remain the same, business as usual. Workers are aware that they will have to make concessions regardless of what happens and are prepared to do so. However, they will show significantly greater work rule and financial flexibility if they are stakeholders sharing in the risks, rewards, and responsibilities of the reorganization process. CEOs and union representatives come and go, but workers and retirees have committed their 30-plus years. Workers have invested their sweat and tears. For many, their jobs are all they have. Retirees only have their pension promises that are now threatened to be eliminated. In addition to the automakers' proposed plans, a more comprehensive and participatory approach is needed to correct many of the mistakes of the last 25 years. The current financial crisis offers a unique opportunity to launch a bold and revolutionary alternative that transcends the exclusionary and undemocratic worker and management models of the past. The model they offer can be the catalyst for other manufacturing companies and serve as the leading edge of a long-term recovery plan for the U.S. economy. The American Auto Worker Ownership Committee is led by Michelle Motter, President, Robert Mason, Chairman, and Jim Maziarz, Co-Chairman, and they invite you to tag along on their recent road trip to Washington, D.C., while they deliver and discuss their plan with congressmen and senators gathering support. These opinions do not reflect the opinions of myself or of Fox Toledo or its employees.
We're talking about shared risks and shared rewards, and part of that was because 30 years ago when you started working at a Big Three, it was like winning the lottery. It was employment for life, and it was very much low risk. Lately, large companies, that risk reward system's kind of been inverted. Now working at a large company is taking on much more risk. Unfortunately, there is no shared reward. Large companies these days typically don't have the ability to change quickly to international conditions, change rapidly to changing market variations, and it's employees with the long tenures that unfortunately have to bear the brunt of that. Now, typically when we start talking about ESOP, one of the pushbacks is that managers manage and employees work, and employees could never run the company. And that's true that employees wouldn't run a company necessarily inside of an ESOP, but they would have significant input into some of the decision-making processes. And I believe that the employees, the ones that are tenured, that will be there for 30 years, by the nature of them being long-term employees and having to share much more risk, are much more apt to make long-term decisions that help improve the viability of the company. Whereas unfortunately, an average CEO's tenure inside the United States is only 3 to 5 years. They have a vested interest to make sure that the long-term viability of the company is second really to the short-term profits that they garner. So it's very important for a CEO in the short term to manage this situation, to tactically have a good response to market conditions that are happening today, but the employees are the ones that have a long-term vested interest in ensuring that there's viability within inside the company and long-term growth. So having a collaboration of the two, having some short-term interest to be able to manage cash flows and be able to manage the day-to-day market, while at the same time creating a strategic plan that allows for long-term growth, is a perfect synergy of both the CEO and the employee.
The president today, you read and saw, implied that auto workers haven't given up enough. What is the reaction from auto workers today?
Well, from my perspective, I believe that he's probably correct. But in addition to that, I would add that I believe the International Union needs to step back and open up and say, yes, if we do take additional concessions, we need to also get something in return. And that, I would say, needs to be stock ownership into the company, so that when they do become viable, then they get their concessions back in a different aspect.
But as Steve was asking you, what do you think they're talking about on the auto floors right now? What are they saying?
Well, they may be scared. They may be scared and of the unknown, and maybe think, oh, I've given up enough. Are the upper management going to give in addition? And yes, I think with what has occurred today, there will be much more concessions from the top. In addition, there needs to be, not just from the bottom to top, it needs to be from the top to the bottom. It needs to be both sides of the table need to meet and make the concessions that is needed to make the companies viable for long term, not just short term, a band-aid to fix the mistakes.
In 2007, I was responsible for leading a team to identify ways to reduce Chrysler's fixed costs by over $2 billion. We were successful, but had we had the flexibility that an ESOP provides, it would have been a much simpler task. When I first heard of ESOPs, I wasn't convinced they'd actually work for the automotive industry, but as I became familiar with them, learned the facts, I started to understand how powerful a tool employee ownership could be.